it.
Okay.
If you don't mind just telling us your first name.
Aida.
Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood?
Yeah, I can say that my childhood was all about my sister, that she was my best friend, and she is still. And I basically do not remember anybody except my sister, and she was the person that was always there for me. Um, and at some point, I realized that we did not even have any parental supervision. We were just left to it, and it was the person who defined my reality back then. I never felt alone. I was always loved, I think. Yes.
What were your dreams as a child?
I never had any. I always thought that it's amazing to be independent. I come from a really conservative background. Dad was an army, officer, and mom was she was submitted to all the army lifestyle, military rules, and I always thought that it would be really great to be independent, to make your own decisions, not to be influenced by what people want you to be, what a woman should look, like in that environment, to be always obedient and so on. And I always wanted that kind of freedom to be able to decide for myself, absolutely, to get out of the,
Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with your dad and how that relationship felt?
I think my dad was like an imaginary person that I barely have any, experiences, any memories with him, because he was always working. He was always a person he was really tough. And back then I just took it for granted, and I just thought that that's the way a man should be, not asking questions, not talking about emotions. It was all really black and white, really binary, and I was always perceived as a rebel, and a woman is not supposed to be like that. You're not supposed to voice your opinion. You're not supposed to contradict. You're not supposed to. So I was like a black sheep, and I would say that most of my life, an idea of man in my life was like, he would always try to dominate, so you should not let him do that. And that had a massive impact on my relationships and on my getting into a relationship and getting out of them. So hence.
How so? Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, the moment I always craved, and I always wanted this this connection and this attention from partners. And the moment I got it, I realized that this is a bit too much, and they're stepping into like the freedom zone, and they had little to do with that. Honestly, it was my idea that if that person became too valuable for me and very quickly became too important, I realized that I do not have myself as a person, like I do not exist. That was my pattern. I was reliving my mom's experience, where her husband was everything to her. So I would quickly get out of those relationships, and therefore I'm 34 and I'm twice divorced. So that because I was always afraid of being, submitted,
And where are you at now?
I would say severe depression, meds, therapy, group therapy, a lot of work. Years later, I am in a really good place where I have a really stable partnership, and I'm really committed, and I'm really, I feel really satisfied and happy. But the amount of work it took, oh my God, it takes to, it, like you have to break yourself. I think you have to doubt all your values and patterns that you get from your parents and you get from your environment and community. You have to redefine yourself all over again. It's like dying all the time. You know, you just it's very it's life changing. You know.
What about your relationship with your mom and how that felt?
Oh wow, mom is my biggest enemy and my greatest love. And it's I'm a mother myself, so the moment I became a mother, I realized what it's the most difficult, ungrateful job in the world. And mother and daughter relationships are really hard. There is a constant mix of rivalry, competition, evaluation, doubting yourself. And my mom is a very cold person. She's not very open, and we had most of our lives we were like just very distant and not really together, but I always wanted her approval. I never got it directly, yet, working on my relationship with myself. In my head, I'm working on my childhood and my relationship with my mom, even though I'm not working on it directly with her, because I realized that it's not really possible. She might not need it. She might not be ready for it. So I just have to deal with it myself. And that's magically improving my relationship with my daughter, because I'm becoming a mother that I can be proud of for myself and for my kid. So my mom, not helping me with me being a daughter, she's helping me with me being a mother, because I can see that I can do more. And whatever you do, it's never enough. If you have a kid, whatever you do, it's never enough.
What's the biggest thing you learned from your parents, good or bad?
The biggest thing I learned from my parents, I was taught by my parents, is independence, because they did not really guide me. And even though in the beginning I thought that was really bad, later I realized that they gave me opportunities to choose, to make mistakes, to not be labeled, oh, you do it this way, you do it that way. I always had my own way, and I always had to figure out, okay, is it good, is it bad? So independence, number one. I don't know, being a hard ass, I guess, number two, because of my dad. So some things they just need to be done, and facing the reality, regardless, you like it or not, is another lesson. Yeah. So yeah, I guess.
Can you tell us about your first love and how that felt? It's whatever you associate with that. So it could be a person, it can be a place, it can be a thing.
I would say that I would say that will always be my sister, and she's my closest person. She's my best person. This is the person that I never doubted, and I never ever thought that whatever she did, whatever she said, that she did it against me, or she was always my angel, whatever. She's really different from me. She's very stable. She doesn't question things. She doesn't look for answers, but she was always there for me, and I never ever doubted her love for me, so that was amazing. It is still. Yeah.
Could you tell us about your first loss or heartbreak and how that felt? Same thing, whatever you associate with those words.
As a kid, as a teenager, I experienced a lot of abuse, like physical abuse from my dad because we went to. I was 11 years old, and then my brother was born. So it was a difficult moment for my parents because you have two teenagers at home, and then all of a sudden you have a newborn. My mom, she kind of lost it because she wasn't ready for it, and her way to deal with us as teenagers was to go and you know, talk to dad and say, just sort it. And he would. And because I was a rebel, my sister wasn't, I got you know, that kind of end of the stick. So my first loss was this. I really mourned the fact that I'm no longer safe, and this lack of safety comes from my parents. That I could not feel safe at home. So I kind of had to get away and like run away from the reality into like my dreams and my imagination and so on. And then I figured out that maybe if I leave my hometown, if I leave my country, if I leave my family, whatever, and maybe then I could escape this idea of not being protected by your own parents. So that would be the biggest heartbreak. And I would say the latest is very connected to it, is the understanding that even though you would want to have a perfect relationship with parents, it might not be possible. So you just have to take it as it is, Yeah.
Did that getting away from all those places, did that solve the problem?
At the time, yeah, it did, but it would always come back because you can't get away from yourself. I was never into alcohol or drugs, so I could never numb myself directly. So I was always left alone with my own, personality and me constantly asking questions. And at some point, I got to the state where I could no longer lie to myself and trick myself that something is because of that, because of this. I knew that I had to work on my mental, on my patterns, right? How I see love, how I see connection, how I see myself in all this, what being a woman is to me, So I would say that to me, the only answer is self-work therapy, reaching out, connecting with people, and being honest, being vulnerable, being open, because people do not like talking about things that are not really, let's call them amazing emotions. Like, we'd never like talking about something that is shameful, something that is, I don't know, whether you feel shame, envy, jealousy. It's not really popular. So I think there's a lot of strength in that, in just being vulnerable enough. Yeah.
Who would you say first taught you what love is and how?
Oh my God, my sister, absolutely. Unconditional love, the only unconditional love in my, of course, in my life that I've experienced. I think I think she replaced this idea of a perfect parent for me, so, and now as like we're both old and let's say mature, we talk about it, and she absolutely feels the same. Yeah, we were like, always together.
What's your definition of love?
What's my definition of love? It's really hard to say. What's my definition? Oh, I never thought about it. I think it's when it's the feeling that, oh my God, it's gonna sound cheesy, but you put that person first. It's like you would want to give up the most important things just to know that they're okay. And I would say number one person like that is yourself. If you do that for yourself, this is my idea of love. I always say to myself and to people around me, treat yourself like you would treat your children. Be kind to yourself and be forgiving. And if you give your kid the best piece of a pie, why wouldn't you give it to yourself? Like, this is the most important. And an amazing thing is my kiddo, my daughter, she's 10 years old, and she knows it now because I'm teaching her. I'm like, who's the best person in the world? She's like, me. And I'm like, and what about for me? She's like, you. So yeah, that's love. Yeah.
What's a good day look like for you?
A good day. A good day to me inside, feeling like not doubting the fact that you want to be in this world and that this world wants you back. This is how I feel. But like, if we talk about a to-do list, I like walking. When I feel like I can walk around, just doing whatever I want to do. And if I want to start my morning with, a bag of ice cream, I'll do it. Because I can, because I'm a grown up, So, yeah.
What about a bad day? How do you get through that bad day?
Anxiety, chemical imbalance in my head. How do I get through it? I talk about it. I name my feelings. I try to understand whether I'm hungry, angry, tired, or lonely. I take a hot bath. I don't hide it. I just let myself have a bad day. I do not take any medications anymore, so I'm really happy that I can get out of those bad days by myself. I can do it without extra help, and this is my strength, and just knowing that tomorrow will come regardless, and changes always happen, and maybe it's not going to make you feel better at the moment. It doesn't make me feel better, but it gives me hope that it's not forever. So just knowing it in perspective, it will change.
What's the difference in the internal feeling when you're using medication, to help, and then now versus doing it a different route? What is the difference in that for you?
I was taking meds that were keeping my mood more stable, so like mood stabilizers, whatever they're called. And the difference was that I did not, in the beginning when I was heavily like my anxiety and panic attacks, I would not, being on meds, I would not jump into drastic emotional mood swings as quick as I did before. So it would give me time to actually to face my emotions. That was the easiest. So if I can say anything, that I absolutely believe in medication, absolutely believe in any help that we can get, if it's professional, and if it makes sense. But absolutely, just meds do not make you anything. You need to work on learning to cope, and to go through life with you the way you are, without pretending like you can be somebody else, or without pretending like, okay, if I work on, I'm gonna change myself. No, you're just the way you are. And meds just gave me options to work on it. Yeah, they took the edge off, and it just gave me an opportunity to go through the hardest moments with some aid. Yeah, absolutely.
What's a person or an event that shaped you, good or bad?
Could you repeat that question, please?
What's a person or an event that's shaped you as a person, either good or bad?
I would say my mom's understanding of what a woman is, direct, indirect communication. I entered my adulthood with a huge eating disorder, where like I attached my value to the way I look, because it wasn't, it did not have direct symptoms. it was really hard to recognize. And I would say that I was not directly bulimic, but I had this cycle of, um, you know, eating excessively, then having guilt, then having an attempt to fix it for like working out a lot, or like having uh, intermittent fasting or whatever, like whatever worked. So I always thought that if I look feminine enough, then my mom, my dad, and my whole surrounding is going to say, okay, you're a girl, that's fine. Yeah. So because I was a little bit too mouthy, a little bit too loud for a girl as a teen, they always said like, you're not a good girl, you know, that's not what a woman should be like. And so I would say that that definitely shaped me, definitely. Yeah, it took me a lot of years to start seeing me the way other people see me, physically at least. Yeah, so yes.
How was that? How was that process?
On a bad day, I still feel like I'm so ugly, oh my God, you know, which is ridiculous. I think it's, first of all, I think the most important thing is to be really, really open, like I said, and vulnerable, and understanding that the only acceptance you need is yours, which is impossible without feeling like your parents accepted you. I think it's very hard when the closest people to you criticize you. I think it's really hard to build self-esteem that you need nowadays to go through life, because life is challenging. And so I think what helped me is looking at my daughter. She's the girliest girl in the world, but she also has those doubts. So I'm teaching her, and by that I'm learning myself, because I'm like, hey, I love that person, but I love myself too. Why can't I learn? Yeah.
What inspires you?
Myself. I'm my own, you know, inspiration, my best friend, and it's like with my mom, it's a love-and-hate relationship, but I would say that I really like that change. So every time I see that having more from life, and I like normal small things. I do not see inspiration as such in things like films, music, or art. Like it's all very secondary to me. I mostly just feel it on a biochemical level in my brain that today I would do something, you know, whether it's rollerblading or having an art project. It can be anything, yes. But I think the idea that you can be really good to yourself, and you can feel okay with yourself on your own, without any stimulus, without any, you know, distraction, without people who would give you an extra, you know, who would add to your value. If you can be with yourself truly, be alone and not feel lonely, that's amazing. So this is has been my biggest inspiration so far. I get bored, I get creative. I get restless, I ask questions like, what's going on? But if I am bored, that's inspiring, absolutely, yeah.
What's been a humbling experience for you?
Oh my God, depression, mental health issues, connecting with people with the same issues. The fact that I could relate to people who are really different from me, really coming from different social background, different you know, values, different education, different interests, everything. The fact that those things, they just unite us, you know, the fact that you can just be in the place where you need somebody else, you need another human, you know. That is unbelievable, because we all set boundaries, you know, and we set limits to, oh, what kind of people do I like? What kind of people do I feel good with? But then you hit the rock bottom, and then you're like, oh, wow, surprisingly, people are not all that different, you know. We all have the same needs. the same needs. Yeah. So yeah, that's very. Mm.
You want to talk more about that experience?
Yes, I can. Storytelling.
Yeah.
A year ago, well, a year and a half ago, I after like some time of clinical depression and a suicide attempts, luckily, didn't work. Yay. So I ended up in a psych ward, where it was the best. First of all, one of the best vacations in my life. I was so taken care of. I was literally, I was shocked. I was like, wow, if only I had that knowledge when I felt really bad earlier in my life, I would have gone to, I would have been hospitalized like that. But I was really, there was a lot of stigma, and I was really afraid, so I did not ask for help. But when I did, I had a roommate, this girl called Sylvia, and she was in really bad shape, but she was the first person who offered me help. She brought me pajamas. She was like, "Oh, would you like me to put it here or there?" She was really subtle, and I was like, "Oh my God, such a weirdo." But we connected because she was very down to earth, really calm, and I was really hyper everything. We spent over a month together in one room. We would smoke out of the window, and that was amazing. And when I had my ups and my downs, she would be like there for me, and she would just ask me if I needed something. And then I left the hospital, and then she left, and we kept in touch for some time. She had a really bad time. I was not aware of her story. About 4 months after we finished our, stay at the hospital, we were still in touch, and then her cousin called me, said that Sylvia committed suicide. I was very angry, really. I knew she had those thoughts. She voiced them, and I was really pissed off. And I was like, damn, like what? All that time I invested in you. But what I actually felt, I was hurt. I was hurt, and she was really different from me. She was coming from a different background, and she had a real different personality. But she made me feel like I was important, like I was needed. I was not judged. And then she did what she did, and it was her choice. And even though, like, I'm still angry, like a year later, but she had it really hard. So I don't judge her. Like, she did what she could. Yeah, that was her way out. So I'm just really happy that I didn't, and that when I did, that it didn't work. And that experience opened up the whole new, level for me. I was like, you don't have to be, you don't have to be going to the same gym to to connect with a person. Everybody is different. When you're really open and vulnerable, you realize that people are they can come a lot closer than you think. Yeah. So, yeah.
So for this next question, if you can go in your mind and think this life event can be mental, physical, or spiritual, can you tell us about a time in your life that you can relate to the word war?
Yeah, yes. My mom and my dad, they come from the country that is still at war, technically, which is Azerbaijan, which is, they're at war with Armenia. They have been for like, oh my God. And I never lived there, but my mom would tell me stories all the time, how because they spoke many languages in their family, because everybody was coming from different background. They were perceived as strangers and as foreigners, right? Because they could not tell the difference. Not everybody can tell the difference from this one or that one. So she was telling me that back in the 80s, when she had my sister and I, like we were really small, and we were visiting her family, how they were basically being stoned, for speaking another language, and they were seen as enemies, and my mom would tell me a lot of stories like that. I came to Poland for the first time because I was interested in Holocaust and in the whole history of genocide. So I went to Auschwitz I went there maybe 7 times to look at the artifacts and to see. And I think that it's really hard to stay human when you face things like that. It changes you, I think. Yeah, so I guess.
How does it change you?
I think you feel disconnected. I think you feel dehumanized, and I think it's done by both people who are fighting and people who are escaping, and I think you have to kill something in yourself to be able to survive that horror. And I think everybody is different, and some people manage to become more supportive, to become more helpful, and they manage to connect and unite in the face of a challenge, and others, they just have to numb themselves. I think it's horrible. I can't really judge them because I don't know how I would feel and what I would do. I have a kid, I have a family, what I would do in such a situation. But I think that it's really easy to get into this animal instincts and just try to do anything to survive. And I think it just messes with your head a lot. So I know that when you feel attacked, you judge the other side. We don't know what happens, so we don't know what you have to do to keep going. My dad would never talk about it, but I know he was in Afghanistan, and I know he was in Chechnya, for some time. And yeah, I think it's really hard to connect with others when they have never experienced what you have, and you can't explain. It's a constant PTSD moment, I think. It changes you, so I don't know. It's really hard.
Did those feelings that you just had right now, deep feelings and deep thoughts, how did that come up again when the war next door broke out for you? I'm a holder of Russian passport, so it's really hard. It's a hard topic for me. Collective guilt, collective shame. I do not agree with this. I have huge resentment, and I have huge shame and huge, I want to fight, because I think it's unfair that the country where I spent a lot of years attacked somebody else. On the other hand, I know a lot of people who do not support this, but there's not a lot of things that they can do, because they are being, oppressed in their own country for having an opinion. And it's not like, we're all living here in Western civilization, being sure of our rights. That doesn't work like that over there. So, but they're also being labeled and judged just for belonging to some culture that they did not choose. Not everybody can have a chance like I did to move countries, to change whatever, because not everybody can. So I feel I run away from it, I avoid it, because it's very difficult, because first of all, it's the language, right? I cannot use Russian anymore, because I can, but I feel a lot of pressure, and I feel a lot of judgment, and
I get stupid questions like, oh, what do you think about the current president? I don't know the guy. I mean, come on. I've got nothing to do with this person. Oh, but your dad used to be in the army. What? There's nothing. That was not my decision. And it's difficult. I think that we all lack perspective, and we all lack trying to understand another human being. Like, what challenges do they face in this particular situation? What is the choice of a young 18-year-old guy being forced to fight for his country, to protect? That's how it is portrayed back there. It's a lot of propaganda. What options does he have? Well, I'll tell you what, he has two options. He either goes and fights, or he stays home and goes to prison. So, because nobody talks about human rights there. Nobody does. And then what do you do when you're in a situation like that? I'm not judging, so it's really hard. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So the next question is the same type of question. If you can go in your mind and think, this life event can be mental, physical, or spiritual, can you tell us about a time in your life that you can relate to the word peace?
At home every day. I am peaceful, I am stable, I am protected, I'm loved. All of that by me and by my partner. So I would say peace is just not something we can appreciate until we're peace deprived. A person that survives domestic abuse, that survives any kind of bullying, knows what feeling peaceful, how important it is. So I can find peace pretty much everywhere nowadays, because I know the value of it, and because I know that if my head is okay, if it's not war or famine or fire, there's pretty much everything that I can handle, right? As long as I'm okay with myself, yeah.
What's the hardest thing you've been through? Or one of the hardest things you've been through?
Life! Not wanting to live and not knowing how to do it. Yeah, not knowing what to choose, because you don't want to live and you don't want to die either. And then I realized that it's not you that you want to, it's not yourself that you want to kill, it's just something in you that you really hate and you really cannot get over. So, yeah, so that's a zombie life. So yeah, that's been the hardest so far, yeah.
Do you want to talk about that rock bottom, what it sounds like, right? Or that moment, and then...
There were many of them, I had many of those moments when I thought, it's just not worth it, I'm not religious, so I was like, okay, even if I was, at some point there's nothing that can stop you. The only thing that stopped me almost all the time, except once, was, but I think it can be better. It cannot be like that, come on. But the most painful part is, but it is like that, and this lack of acceptance, you do not want to be okay with the fact that it's not okay. I think this is something nobody taught me, that sometimes it's just not okay and it will be fine, just wait through it, like you'll pound through it, just give it some time. No, if it's not okay, you're useless, you're worthless. So I just never, I could never live with this feeling that I feel bad, to sit with those feelings, to have those feelings and do nothing about them and be inactive and just accept the fact that I can have a bad day, a bad month, a bad year, unbearable. So this was and has been the hardest, absolutely, yeah.
What's the happiest moment in your life?
Oh my God, now. Today, this is the happiest. Come on. And tomorrow, there's going to be something else. I am a carpe diem. I have it tattooed on my shoulder. So, live a day. Yeah. So tomorrow might come, might not. But I like my everyday life. Absolutely. A cup of tea in the morning. Oh my God, yes. And, that's amazing. Yeah.
What keeps you up at night?
I don't sleep very well. Abandonment issues. I feel like I wasn't wanted by the most important people in my life. That keeps me up at night. It has been really intense lately, and because my therapy has been intense, so it's coming up. And they say it's really good because I'm working on it. But literally, what I feel through the day, I live at night, So directly it comes to me. It's like there is no question. Like if I have thoughts about my mom, I'll have a dream about my mom doing the same thing. I'm afraid to be alone. I hate it. I feel alone very often. I feel the most lonely I feel around people, unfortunately. It's amazing. All that awareness and understanding does not heal you. It just gives you a tool to go wake up every morning and go on and go on. But it does not heal you. And I don't believe that anything heals you. I just think that it's the combination of things that we try. I'm afraid to be not needed, to be not wanted, like I think most of us, yeah. So yeah, I'm afraid to end up alone, and invisible, basically. Yeah.
What keeps you going every day?
What keeps me going? Life, myself, chocolate. I don't know, anything that feels good, anything that brings me back to thinking, it's really good to be independent, to be a grown-up, to be mature, to make your own decisions. It's amazing. I'm abusing it, because I know how it feels not to have that freedom. And I think it's amazing that I could do literally whatever I want. And that's exactly what I do, so it's really nice. Yeah.
Imagine you're in the hospital today with only hours to live. What would be your regrets, if any?
Absolutely, regrets, yes. I'm a human. I would regret letting others define me and not standing up, for myself, and just letting myself be a pushover. And I just, I do regret listening to people and believing that they can, what they say out of their own insecurities that can define me. I should have stood up for myself a lot more often. Absolutely, yes, yeah. And a tattoo. I have a bad tattoo. Oh my God, I regret it a lot. Yes.
So you're alive and well. Do you feel that you can be at peace, make amends, or change any of those regrets you just said?
Every day, I'm working on it. Every day, I honestly, I just begin to learn to appreciate myself for it, because I'm working a lot on it. Like, the progress is amazing. Honestly, the life quality, it's wow. It has changed so much. And I would say that I'm not an impulsive person, as in I do not try to do things in order not to feel things anymore. I know what's happening. I know why it's happening. And if I don't just, let it slide. So I would say I'm doing all right. I think I'm on a good path. The only thing I would say to myself: do not be so hard on yourself. Sometimes it doesn't work. Not everything is meant to work, and I think sometimes it's okay that you mess up and it's not perfect. Oh no. Yeah. Yeah.
What are your dreams now as an adult?
I don't have any. I just want to live a life, and I just want to chill pill, I like not having ambitions as such, because what I want to do, I will do regardless. What I want to be, I'm trying to be, and it's, I love the idea of not being deceived by having control, because I don't really have control. What I can do is I can try my best, and it's working. So no dreams. Okay, one dream: mental health, as much as I can get, and mental stability, because this is the clue, this is the key, and if that exists in my life, everything else is just great. And a six-pack. Yeah, yeah.
You're the co-author of your life story. What's your picture perfect ending? And it's not the end. It's as if your life was a book or a movie. What is that scenic last few shots before the movie's over? So it's not...
Oh my God, I know. I'm like, towels wrapped like around, and I'm like in a bikini with a cigarette, and I'm just sat there. I'm like, yeah. And you know what? Yeah, that's happiness. To me, this is happiness. And somebody's like, hey, we have to be somewhere at like 5. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, And yeah, so this is perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah. Yeah.